All right, that's you, President O'Donnell.
Sure. Well, it's nice to see everybody. Thank you all for taking the time today. As Kinsey said, this is really just an opportunity for you to have a Q&A session regarding all the changes going on for this year. Obviously, COVID is presenting an unprecedented situation, and I really think we're making the most of it. A number of the board members have already participated in at least one, if not multiple, Zoom tournaments. A number of us, I would say, are getting quite proficient at it, including Dr. Ringo and Dr. Hall, who are on the call with us today. So I don't have a formal agenda or anything like that I wanted to go through with you all. But you know, the key for this year is going to be flexibility and patience. So please do instruct your coaches and your competitors and anyone else who's involved with your organization accordingly. Obviously, we want to do the best we can and put on the best program that we can, but there are going to be snafus. We have a lot of people using technologies that they just may not have used enough. We're trying to fill that in with staff and with experienced members, but you know, resources do have limitations. So that caveat being said, I still do expect everything is going to go incredibly smoothly, or at least better than expected. So there's a few items that Kinsey and I wanted to cover. I don't know if you want me to start that, or if you want to dig on in. I mean, we can just trade back and forth.
You're the boss. That's why we pay you to be.
Sure. So for the Zoom tournaments, a couple of the things, yeah, the big bucks. A couple of the things, you know, a little bit of preparation is going to go a long way in getting ready for these tournaments. And that goes for both our hosts and for the tournament participants. The hosts will be using a Zoom shell, if you will, sort of just like this one. And then what we're recommending they do is set up all the breakout rooms and things like that ahead of time. You don't want to be creating a Zoom framework the hour before your tournament. It's just not going to work. You're going to be late. I recommend, you know, a week before setting it all up. You're going to want to have extra rooms, okay? In fact, it's really nice when the different programs might have rooms that they can gather in before the competition begins. You'll want a separate one for judges, one for tab, of course. The main room will be there by default. I would recommend making a few extra competition rooms. If you got a 2014 tournament, you think you only need 12, there's really no harm in making 14 or 15. I think the standard limit might be 50 breakout rooms per subscription. So we should not have any tournaments that have an issue with that. Similarly, the teams, all right, when you sign up, I would highly recommend that you do a number of practice rounds on Zoom. Get used to the functionality, get used to what your background looks like, get used to interacting with a computer screen where there might be a lag. Those are all going to go a long way. But in terms of logistics, when you sign up, when you log into your Zoom for the tournament, what we practically insist on is that you're going to name yourself by team number and then your name. It's going to make it so much easier for the host or whoever is doing the organization, the sorting during the tournament, to move you to your appropriate room. If you show up and it just says John O'Donnell, well, are you a judge? Are you a coach? Are you a spectator? Are you a competitor? We just don't know. And if you have 24 teams there, plus the proper number of judges, plus coaches, you can imagine how many interactions that's going to be that's slowing everything down. Some students I've even seen put things like Team 14, Joe Smith, first speaker, 9 minutes. I don't think you need to go that far, but it is that easy to change the way your name appears in the Zoom that you really could do that between every round. A couple other details. We are not allowing spectators this year. That is largely for bandwidth purposes. All right. I know it may seem like, oh, this is a perfect opportunity for my grandparents in Florida to watch. And I get that, but we made the decision that the smooth operation of the tournament and not having drops and hangups and lag, if possible, was preferable to allowing that. There's a few other variances that are going to go on that just sort of come with the fact that we're doing this remotely. Some of that may come up in the Q&A section. What we've done is we've updated all of our rules on the website with notations where appropriate. So if you have questions about what changes to the rules may have occurred, they should all be laid out there in pretty good detail. I believe there was a summary memo that may have been circulated and posted as well. Similarly, the scoring criteria has changed slightly. Obviously, things like courtroom demeanor, making eye contact, we have to change our expectations and what's appropriate. So while we, of course, want to encourage our competitors to maintain the highest levels of professionalism and decorum, we also recognize that some of these students may have no choice but to deliver their rounds from a bedroom, from a shared studio apartment. And so while, you know, if there is a bed in the background, please make your bed. Judges will be told not to penalize students based on backgrounds. Similarly, you may see Julie Kyle, our board member here, has the wonderful Northern Lights as her background. She must have a pretty good computer because a number of them do have some processing issues that make graphics not display properly. And so we decided, for the sake of fairness, just to ban any sort of virtual backgrounds. And of course, again, tell the judges that that's not supposed to matter, but we all know people are people. And then in terms of the ballots themselves, what we're going to offer our hosts are two different ways for the ballots to be submitted. One would be an email PDF, where the judge would literally fill out what looks like our traditional ballot. Only it's in PDF form. They would type in on all the lines where they would normally write names, team numbers, all that information. And same thing with the scores. The judge would then save that PDF and email it to the tabulation director for that tournament, or the AMCA rep, or whoever happens to be doing that aspect of the task of the tabbing. Needless to say, again, in a big tournament, if you had 48 teams, you're going to have at least 48 judges. Maybe you're hoping you have, 62. That's a lot of emails per round. But it is one way to do it. It's going to keep our judges the most familiar, give them the ballot they're most familiar with. We do have a second option. It's a Google form. What we would do is send a link to the judges with a secure password, so we know only the judges are inputting data to that. And just like our ballot sheet, it's just in linear form rather than side by side. So they would go through and input their name, the round they're judging, the room they're in, the competitor team numbers, the competitor names. And then we have the score boxes with the criteria text right there. So it's kind of nice to have the criteria right next to your score. And then there's a certification checkbox at the end that the judge certifies that they have waited until the end of the round, including rebuttal, to score all the competitors and that their ballot is ready for submission. That then populates a Google document, an uneditable Google document that is accessible by the tab director, who can, again, look at the scores, input them, and score the system accordingly. We're letting each host determine which system they want to use, and we're encouraging anyone who's hosting to play around with both options. I just recently tabbed a tournament using the Google Docs system and enjoyed it. But I've been told that some people who have difficulty with small text don't enjoy it. So again, I encourage you to see what works for you and your colleagues. Same issues are going to occur with tabbing of the, verification of the scores. Our scoring system is separate from either the Google Docs or the fillable PDFs that come in. So there is going to be manual data entry done by one or two individuals. Again, the purpose of ballot verification is just to make sure our data entry was correct. We're not, I suppose if back in the day of handwritten ballots, we would be looking at crossouts and things like that, but that won't be an issue with typed ballots. But again, we will want to have all the teams verify. Again, each host is going to be responsible for that. If it's a Google form, you just email it out, and you will have to handle the issues of people who have visual problems with that. Hopefully we can either print it in a larger version or find a way to magnify it into a new document and share that. And then with the PDFs, they would just get emailed around as typical. We do expect the verification.
Can I ask a question on that?
Sure.
On behalf of the regional directors. One of the things that I noticed was it sorts it in the order that the judge, that the ballot came in, which can be confusing because you're used to looking at 3 ballots, right, on paper, but here you may have one room and then the next ballot is 3 judges down. Is there a way, I noticed Kobe's on here. Is there a way to sort that by room? If you have editor, Kinsey, can that be sorted by, otherwise regional directors, I'm just envisioning some coaches are going to get confused by that.
Yeah, that's definitely something we can look into. I know that we're going to attempt as much as possible to have a macro set up to be able to clean the data between rounds to make it easier for Tab. So I'll definitely look into whether or not, I'm sure there is as part of the macro to sort it. So I will definitely check that out for you.
Thank
And
you.
while we're on that subject, let me throw this in, Kobe. It was difficult for me looking at the spreadsheet, trying to figure out, because there was no total. It would just be like the four numbers, 95, 93, 95, 95, and not having a total there to match it up about whether my team won or lost the ballot. Is that a possibility as well?
I've already addressed that. All of the new Google form ballots include a calculated field. So it's uneditable, but the judge can see what it totals to, both for each individual speaker. And then on the certification page, it totals for each team. So before they click certify, they can see it too. So if they're like, oh crap, I thought the petitioner won, but I gave more points to respondent, they can go back and change that. And then it populates those into the Google form as well, the Google sheet as well. And then Lewis's question, yes, we can. I recommend copying and pasting everything out of the submission portal just so you don't mess it up, because you would hate to destroy the original. And then and you will, so with the editor privileges, you should be able to do that. And then you can sort it in Excel however you want. It will be important that your judges do put their room number though, because they're more likely to put their team number from what the team numbers correctly. Lots of different stuff have come up in room numbers, the room number block, just FYI.
Well, it's going to be names, right? Room names.
Well, or it doesn't have to be names. Hosts can still use numbers if they prefer. I will be putting them when I'm doing it with names, but it's up to the person, it's up to the tournament host and the person running the Zoom.
So the other problem I had then after I wanted to give the feedback to my students was not being able to copy and paste from the Google Docs into a spreadsheet because it is protected.
Well, I mean, yeah, so we'll need to make that available in an Excel document after the fact, or you can just give them the link that you had to view it.
Ah, okay.
Barbara, in the tournament that I was in, I was able to download the Google Doc to an Excel doc.
I think I just need to go back and try again. Thanks, Dr. King.
I'm still Kinsey, not Kimmy.
Is the ballot online?
Yes.
So it's Pam's question. It's online. Yep. It's on the
No,
website.
no, no, yeah. Oh. So the fillable PDF is on the website. The unfillable one is, there's a video. So the fillable one is on the website. There's a video on the website showing Kobe going through and filling out a ballot, because it's too long to all fit on one screenshot. So go to amcamootcourt.org under resources. All of our resources now include a number of virtual. So if you look at those videos, and then here's the other link. Hang on. Y'all can keep going. I'm looking for the link to the videos.
So is there a way that I'm running an invitational next weekend, not this weekend, the next weekend. Is there a way that I can get the password to the Google ballot so I can take a look at how that works and then be emailing those out to my judges?
Yes, we can set that up for you, Chuck.
Okay. So who do I need to work with on that?
Either Kinsey or Kobe. It's just a few. It's not a. I don't think it's a lot of work since we've already got the shell set up. So we can do that for you, and they'll send you both links for the judges to do their ballots, and for your the separate link for you and your coaches or teams to check the results, as well as the password for the judges.
I can tell you, Charles, I sent the link to the ballot, the virtual ballot, out to my judges. Like, here's the link for the ballot you're going to be using. And all of them
So I wanted to
were
go
able to
over
do it.
what the current proposed
Sorry.
ballot. So
To Barbara's point, what I would recommend is when you have your judges orientation tournament hosts, you're going to want to have that link and password handy and post it in the chat of your Zoom, and the judges will want to have it there as well. That's a very nice point. Okay, so those ballots are online. Again, the virtual ballot is up there, as well as the videos, which includes Kobe filling out the online Google Doc version. And there's a number of other guides up there as well, to sort of give you some tips and best practices for the Zoom competitions. All right, so I think that covers the sort of the nuts and bolts of the tournament changes, the scoring changes, some of the procedural changes. Trying to think if there was anything else. Obviously, we've made some changes regarding the size of nationals and the like, but that's not really the purpose of today. So I'm trying to think, unless there was anything else Kinsey or Kobe had, my inclination would be to open this up for further Q&A.
John, did you just want to do a reminder for the rules about their audio, the competitors, the audio and the video, and what coaches can be doing?
Sure, of course. As always, the rule is there's no outside help allowed during a round. One coach from each team is allowed to virtually observe the round, logged into the Zoom account. Coaches must have their microphones and cameras off. Competitors, if they're on separate Zooms, must be on camera at all times, even when they're not arguing. So when you're done arguing, you do not turn off your camera. All right. If you're all right, so you stay on the camera. You turn your audio off if you're not the one arguing, of course, but you should definitely leave your camera on so the judges can observe your decorum while the other rounds are being argued.
John, I thought I read in the, I don't know if it's a Nick's list or if it was in the rules. I thought I read where it said the competitors were to have their videos off during rounds if they were not arguing. I read that. Materials we have, I read that.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that was.
I have that backwards.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I don't think you have it backwards. I think that there was something that Julie's referring to, which was inconsistent, that needs to be fixed.
All right, then we should double check that. The only time that a person would not be on camera is if the two students are sharing a single camera. Only the advocate speaking should be appearing on the camera. The one not speaking does not need to be in the background. They can be off the camera.
We either need to send out a clarification or send out to everyone, because I know that there's a conflict. We've been doing it with the cameras on, and Amy pointed out to me suddenly, oh my God, we have to have the cameras off, and this changes a lot. So
I will look for that, or if anyone happens to have that handy, I can grab that. Someone's just sent the link over on it. Okay.
I think it may be from Nick's list, but I'm not sure where she got it from.
Okay.
Is there any other protocol or comment that about where two students are sharing one camera?
For instance.
For instance, I guess you would have to change the name to at the point in time that the second speaker comes up, right?
You could, or what I'd recommend is you put team 2, Joe Smith and Ben Bones, and you can do it that way.
Okay, so it would have both of them in it. Okay.
So
the text will fit both names, yes.
yeah, and just to speak to what my co-counsel and I did during your tournament, Barb, that is exactly what we did. It just had our team number, both of our names in the order in which we were speaking, and if the judges wished for clarification, we did that at the beginning of the round, and it was not an issue. And we are on a shared device, just for clarification.
I have a question that I believe other student judges might have if they're on, student coaches might have if they're on this call. My teams, since we could only register so many for tournaments, are split up between 2 tournaments. And I am competing in the season in December, but many of my teams are competing in November. So am I still allowed to be a spectator on their rounds when they compete before me, or am I not allowed to do that since I'll be competing as well?
You would not be allowed to observe the round.
Okay.
Kinsey, I'm looking for that video that you talked about on the AMCA website. I don't see it. Where do I look for it?
If you go, I just dropped it in the comments. So if that's easier for you, you can just pull it up right there. And then it's on, there's the resources. It's,
Yeah, I'm looking at the resources page and I see a bunch of documents, but I don't see a video.
let me see if it's,
If I may ask a clarification question real quick, we said today that the naming convention is going to be team numbers and then competitors' name. On the tournament guidelines for competitors, it says it's name, tournament number, competitor, and then the issue. Have we eliminated that and it's just team number and then name?
Thank you for that, Ben. We are going to have to correct that. We've learned just more as a matter of practice. I mean, that's all the information we wanted, but as a matter of logistics, what we've heard from the tournament hosts is put that team number first. It's the most important piece of information. So we will issue a clarification on that as well. Kobe, if you wouldn't mind making a note of that one to correct, that would be terrific.
And I can make a little clarification about that. When everyone is coming into the main room, and you're moving them from there into their school rooms, it's super helpful to have that team number first. When they get to their rooms, they can, change it to whatever protocol. But for the person who's moving folks, to be able to just listen who comes in the main room, see what school they're from, and be able to shift them is really helpful.
I have a question.
Yes.
Hi, John.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. And this may have already been discussed, so forgive me if it has been. So what am I going to see between now and then in terms of a Zoom address? Am I going to see prior, hopefully, to the morning of November 6th, when we're competing in the Western Regional in Fresno? Are we going to get am I going to get a general Zoom link that I distribute to my competitors for that day? We have 5 teams. Or how's it going to work? What's going to happen between now and the 6th?
That depends on your host, because AMCA is running the Zoom. Me and Kobe and Matt are running the Zoom, and Kennedy, if she's here, are running the Zoom for about half the tournaments. And so I am providing the link to the host. So for example, Rob, for Tech this weekend, I have emailed him the link, and I just did one link with the passcode and set that tournament up. And I have done the same thing for Liberty. And so I'm going to be emailing that out probably soon. Sorry, tech folk, I'm getting it to you. And then with all those other links, but that is going to be varied by host. Because they could, in theory, do separate Zoom meetings so some of our invitationals have done webinars and separate Zoom meetings. We are not encouraging that, just because that would require you to have 50 licenses, and some people might, but we don't. So there may be individualized Zoom links, but our plan for at least the AMCA tournaments is to create the meeting and send it a couple of days in advance, that you can then pass it on to your competitors. But that's also why we ask for competitor email addresses, because as a fail-safe, we also want to make sure that we have a way to contact them as well, just to try, spam filters or confusion or morning of nerves or whatever. So.
All right. And is there a time frame that's been set up yet?
It'll be at Gina's discretion, who's hosting your tournament, but I would expect it to come out, within the week before. So if it starts on a Friday, I'd expect you to have it by Monday.
You think? So students should just know, be ready anytime starting Friday morning, just like they would showing up for face-to-face.
Yes, I mean, when I practice law, the Connecticut courts have the habit of sending you your Zoom link 15 minutes before your scheduled event. I'd rather not do that. Again, every host is going to have their own limitations. So, hopefully they would have it to you well in advance so that you can have it to your people. The students won't need a password. They'll just need the link. So as long as you have it by the time, you're supposed to be there, you'll be all right.
All right, so they're simply tuning in to a Zoom meeting just like we are right now. They click on a link. When they get there, there'll be either Gina or somebody else who's going to say, okay, team 12, you're going into this breakout room and you're competing in 15 minutes.
Yeah, and that's actually part of what I wanted to do is I have breakout rooms set up and I wanted to assign folks to breakout rooms so you can see what it looks like. It's an option to force people into their rooms, but we're going back and forth on whether to require that, to use that option or not, because if you force the competitor into their room, but they're not there, then, they're not sitting in front of their computer, they may not have it. So usually what we're expecting is, yes, you get one Zoom link, you follow it, you all show up here. Then it becomes my job to start putting y'all in breakout rooms. So I will be able to pick people and assign them to rooms. And this is where the labor of love comes in. And that's why we have a team of folks, Mr. Matt Murphy, who you may remember as a competitor, and Ms. Kennedy Green will be helping us. You may remember her as a competitor. And Kobe, when he's not competing, will be helping us as well, because only one person is allowed to move people unless you give them the option to move themselves. And so far, everybody's been reluctant to allow students to move themselves. So with that in mind, that means before every round, you're going to have one nice, person that is hopefully faster than me at it, assigning everybody to their round. And then once, so you can either assign them as you go, as they come in. I am assigning you all, and then you're going to get an see, I almost deleted a whole room. So you're going to get an invitation and you're going to go to a breakout room, and y'all can sit there for a couple minutes to see what it looks like. And then I will show you what a message looks like for you to see what that looks like. And then I will figure out how to bring you all back, hopefully. Louis, did you get your invitation?
I did, but I've been in breakout rooms.
Okay.
It's okay.
I was making sure it's going through. I don't know what I'm doing.
I'm just staring at it. No, it's okay.
Okay, to your answer, I have no idea if Andy sent the PowerPoint.
Yeah, I checked with Andy and I haven't heard back from him, but I don't really know how many hosts are on this, so I figured I wasn't going to bring it up. I know, obviously Julie and Rob, so then I thought there would be more hosts on this. But
I don't know that I got the message out to hosts. I'm not sure. Okay. I sent it to all of the participants, but okay. So then now I have to bring everybody back. So I'm going to broadcast a message to everyone telling them round 2 will begin in 15 minutes. Please finish.
Kinsey, am I supposed to be someplace?
Yeah, you were sent an invitation to go to a breakout room, but I assumed, like Louis, you had enough time in breakout rooms that you didn't feel like going.
Oh, no, I was in the middle of talking to a student who was taking an exam, so I didn't get that. I'll join the breakout room.
Okay.
Hey, I missed an earlier message. Whose cameras are going to be off if we're coaches watching our teams? Are our cameras off?
Yes.
Yes.
And same with the judges, or
No.
are they on screen? So it's going to be the judges and the 4 competitors are the people on screen.
Yes.
Thank you.
Professor Hall, I am at Tech and
Yeah.
we're helping Professor Sherwin. I had a question or some questions about judges. I don't know if that's like applicable to everyone, but so is there a judge briefing video that I need to send them prior to the round?
Yeah, that's actually what Lewis and I were just talking about. We were trying to figure out if you had gotten that yet or not. So
Okay. I haven't gotten it, Professor Sherwin might have it.
I don't think he has. I forgot there was one coming up this soon. Andy's in the process of making it, and there's a PowerPoint. I just don't know that he has the video where he walks through the. I have something that works depending on what kind of ballots you're using. And if Andy, it's done by Lori Kelly. If Andy doesn't have it done, it's very similar. If you don't mind, I would just ask that Rob or you email me just to remind me in the next day or so, including today. Because I've texted Andy, he may be in trial for all I know.
Okay.
So,
and then also for judges, how much, we have some judges, different judges judging at different times. How far in advance do they need to get on the Zoom meeting? How many minutes prior to the round? Give
us 15 minutes.
Okay.
And the sooner you can get us those lists of, so do you want, I'm going to give you the room numbers. I can do that here shortly. I'll send you the room numbers and then you can just put names next to the room numbers. Does that work for you?
Yeah, I have them in a spreadsheet right now, kind of laid out, but I can either just email that to you or give it to Professor Sherwin, whatever I need to do.
Perfect. Great.
Okay.
Can I just add one thing to that? For the orientation for that, so if I understand your question, you've got people maybe doing round 2 but not round 1.
Yes, sir.
Did you have rolling, or are you going to send them the what we're talking about as a video? And so everybody else knows this really only pertains to judges. This has nothing to do and regional hosts. I'm not sending every person on this a video of the PowerPoint. So
yeah, and Lewis, I'm sorry I missed the first part of this discussion, but for all y'all, my name's Rob Sherwin. I'm a professor at Texas Tech Law School. We're running competition this weekend, and Michelle there is my student who's getting all our judges lined up. So will there be a judges orientation video, or do you want us to produce one of those?
Yeah. I was just saying that it would almost be better. Just give me a call. And I can walk you through it. Andy's putting it together. I have something, but it's not probably exactly what Andy's going to do. But worst case, I'll send you what I have.
Yeah, I did one last year, of course, when we were hosting a live tournament. But and I'm happy to do one now.
Right,
and really taking notes, but
now because you could send it to the judges and they can watch it on their own.
Exactly.
And what I was asking, are you doing a rolling orientation, or is it just? Or is it just one? So if they're judging round 2 but not round 1, they miss the orientation. What are you guys doing?
Well, I mean, what my plan was it would be a video we'd put on YouTube or something like that they could watch today. They could watch tomorrow, right? They could watch on Friday. So that would give them all their information. And
I have something I could send you today. I just don't think it's going to be the one that'll be at all the regionals. It was one that Lori did for a competition we ran together, and there's just like two or three things missing from it. But let me get with Andy and or give me a call, and let's see if we can get it to you the next day or so. I truthfully forgot there was one this weekend. In my head, they're all starting in November.
We know we're early. And again, I'm happy to do one myself, but you guys have way more information and background than I do. So I'm happy to use yours.
And I can get you the PowerPoint, and it's just sort of what you need is the explanation of the ballot. And that's what Lori did, which is very good. And she did it right up front.
Yeah. Okay.
There was a question that came up in our breakout room, Lewis, about whether we can have a brief instruction that if 2 students are sharing a computer, that should not be used against them because they're not on the screen the entire time.
I think that's already in the instruction.
Okay. I know that came up, but can we make sure that's in there?
There's a whole big thing about not penalizing students for their situation. So.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Coach Wilson, for sharing the link, what we're going to show you is the recommended option for sharing, for doing the bailiffing. So Kobe, do you want to bailiff for us? So so either your bailiff or your opposing counsel can put up a timer.
Will you allow me to share?
I will, if I can.
And just so everyone knows, what you're about to see is what happens when the bailiff or timekeeper shares their screen for the time. And then we're going to walk you through how to optimally set up your screen for the round.
Did that work?
Yes. So before we begin, I'm about to share my screen. Now, what that's going to do for most of you is to blow up what I'm about to show you very big. There is an option in the top right-hand corner of your screen called View. Now, generally, the rules suggest that everyone keeps their view in gallery view, and we're going to maintain that. However, once I share, you should have the option to select side-by-side view, okay? Once that happens, you'll have the timer that I'm going to show you on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side should be everybody's wonderful little box. In the middle, you should then be able to start dragging the screen left or right to increase the size of the timer or decrease the size of the gallery or vice versa, okay? And this may all make more sense once I actually do this. So let's dive right in and share. Can everyone see the timer?
Yes.
Fabulous. Okay, so you should be able to adjust your view to what's called side-by-side view. And this is mostly for competitors and judges because we find that for competitors, you know, we want to be able to be interacting with the judges and seeing who's talking without just being so focused on the timer. So if you're bailiffing, if you're a bailiff in the round, or if you are keeping time for your opposing counsel, you can either use, disable annotation. Okay, so you can either use Google Timer or, like Coach Wilson suggested, vTimer. In the virtual tournament guidelines for bailiffs, which is available at amcamootcourt.org/resources, you should be, it walks you through both options, both Google Timer and vTimer. So essentially all you do is when the person is ready to start speaking, click on start and it's going to go through. And then once that's completed, once the round ends, we highly suggest that you hit reset before you know, the alarm gets really annoying. But once you're done with that, and say it's respondent's turn, respondent's going to speak for 10 minutes, you can adjust it, make it full screen again, and all is well. Any questions?
So we do that by screen share. But how do we set it up in all the breakout rooms? Does the timer or the bailiff set it up as screen share? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So it's really critical that bailiffs know how to do this.
Yes, and as the host, whoever the host is needs to enable screen sharing for participants, because that's the only way that bailiffs will be able to share their screen. Now, bear in mind, competitors, that only the bailiff or anybody keeping time is allowed to share a screen. Otherwise, it is forbidden.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Kobe.
Kobe, can I
Our
just
bailiffs,
Go ahead, Coach Wilson, and then we'll have Lewis follow up.
are bailiffs going to be announcing the traditional minute, 30 seconds?
All you will see is that visual display.
Interesting. Okay.
Because
Because traditionally, you know, they get the flash, so now they really got to watch that timer.
Yeah, but it's completely different because in the past they got 1 minute, 30 seconds. Now you actually know when you have a minute 26, a minute 25. Actually, it's better, I would say.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Thanks, Lewis.
Oh, sure. Kobe, I wasn't certain if you mentioned this, but I'm just speaking on behalf of the judges because it's going to be important for regional directors to probably explain to your judges. They can make the timer much smaller by going to the right side and then getting that gray line and then sliding it over on the screen. You know, we just ran one where the Chief Justice didn't realize that he could do that. I think he's younger than me. I thought he would have known how to do it, but He's pretty smart, but he didn't realize he could do that. And as a result, he told me afterwards, he didn't ask as many questions as he would have because he couldn't see. The only thing he could see was the timer. Basically, it was his whole screen. He was on an iPad. So that's one thing that regional directors probably also want to make certain that you, and that's one of the things, Rob, part of the holdup is we're trying to add that to the judge orientation. That's one of the things that we need to make certain judges also know how to do.
Yeah, I didn't realize you could shrink that down either. So.
Oh yeah, I had it down to just like this big on mine.
I had no idea you could do that. Gobi, that's really helpful. I've never seen that before. So we've been having people holding up time cards because I didn't want to use the timer because it was taking up half the screen. Yeah, just find that gray line on the corner of it, and there's a little center to it, and just slide it over. Never saw it before, so learn something new every day.
Just put your cursor on it.
And it just occurred to me, but one thing we're going to need to add to the bailiff instructions, and tournament hosts, I'm going to suggest this as well. When the bailiff or whoever's keeping time shares the screen, there is an option under options to disable annotations. So thank you to the person that was drawing on the timer for reminding me. Because if you do not disable that, then people can just start randomly drawing squiggles on the timer, which could be distracting to competitors. So we'll add that option, but just to make sure that your bailiffs are disabling annotations.
I have a kind of two-part question. One part is, hi, Coach Sherwin. Are you going to have bailiffs this weekend?
We are not. I was going to talk with Kinsey about that. We've never provided bailiffs when we've done it in person. We've always just had opposing counsel keep time. So if that sounds like that's an option, which will work better for us, but I can always dragoon a bunch of 1L law students into bailiffing if we really need to. So,
Rob, if I could suggest, if there's a coach in the room, the coach can do it too.
Okay.
And so my question here is, how do we instruct the students about operation of this type of timer? Is there going to be something that, like written or something that we can give to students that says, if you're in a position where you're going to be timing, here's how you do it?
Yeah, so if you you can direct your students to amcamootcourt.org/resources, and there is a virtual tournament guidelines for bailiffs. Now that's going to be updated just to add the annotation stuff, but the instructions are generally the same. Either using the Google timer or vTimer, doesn't really matter. And hopefully, ideally, most of the students are pretty familiar with the share screen function of Zoom by this point. I know I am. So hopefully that will not be a problem. But yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kobe.
I have a quick question about timing, if I may. We talked at the beginning about the importance of being flexible this year. I guess I'm just a little worried about the possibility of we prep our students all year with the timer on the screen, and then we get to a round and there's some sort of technical difficulty. And they say, okay, we're not going to do that. We're going to do time cards instead because we can't get this thing to work. And then our students aren't really prepared for that. Like, to what extent are we confident that in every single round, the timer will be an option to the point where we can prep students with that? Or should we be prepping our students as well to be able to deal with the situation with time cards if it arises?
I cannot fathom a situation where the round would still be operable, but no one is able to access a Google timer. I can't fathom that working technologically speaking.
Well, great. Now it's going to definitely happen, John.
Yep, I just crashed Google for the first weekend of tech. Sorry, Rob. So that having been said, students should be prepared for anything. That's sort of the nature of the beast. And so, I would say I'm highly confident that we will be able to use the timer in every round. There's no guarantees in life other than death and taxes.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a fix for it as well, is that since the students are going to be on camera all of the time, is that if, like, where I'm having my partners time for each other, the person who is timing will go 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 2, 1, and the judge and the others can all see it. So it's primitive, but it works. Makes sense?
I also issue time cards to all of my personal students, so they all are able to hold up time cards if the Google falls apart.
And since we're saying everybody has to be on camera, we have some kind of option available for timekeeping that all competitors and the judges can see.
Well, that's good. It's good that some of you are prepared for that. That's great. That's great. Obviously, we can use these same functions for your third round coin flips. There are free coin flip websites as well. So the bailiffs for those third round coin flips don't have to go looking for a quarter. They can do it using an online flip system.
May I?
Go right ahead.
Okay, so excellent point. So if you Google, if you have your bailiff or whoever, Google coin flip, this is what comes up. I'm sure many of you have seen this already. And all you got to do is have whoever is going to call it, and flip it. In the competition that we were in last weekend, the presiding judge flipped the coin when there wasn't a bailiff, just to ensure impartiality.
Kobe,
So yeah.
before you take that away, if you move your Julie, if you move your cursor over to the right of that, there should be there's like just like a hash mark right in the middle. I don't know if you can see that. It's like two little white lines. If you move your cursor onto that hash mark, you should get a big gray line. I don't know if I shared my screen, if it would show you that. And then that should enable you to make, I just made the timer the whole screen, and now I just made it like, you know, the size of a $50. So
Yeah, no,
that's what I'm talking about. That
right, I'd never seen it before. I figured it out right away.
Okay.
As soon as Copy said
That's what I'm talking about.
So simple, yeah.
And it's
No,
the
I
same
got
thing
it.
on the Google timer.
I got it.
Thanks, Kobe.
Are there other questions?
Yeah, excuse me. I just have a brief question if I could. So since the chat won't be available for competitors to chat to one another, how do you suggest that competitors can share notes for rebuttal purposes? Thank you.
So are you talking the situation where competitors are on separate computers, not in the same room, and may have to handle a rebuttal?
Yeah, that's correct. Thank you.
So the rules do not allow for the use of the chat or any other functionality for the teammates to compete. So unfortunately, the students will not be able to communicate with each other regarding that. So that's something that would have to be handled prior to the round. They'd have to have that discussion about how they're going to handle rebuttal.
That seems to be an issue. It gives an advantage to students who are in the room together competing with each other.
It arguably has that unintended consequence. That's correct.
But not really. If you're seeing the students talking to each other, the judges see the students talking to each other, handing things back and forth. They're not paying attention. That shows to courtroom demeanor. So I don't think that's that big of an advantage. And we certainly tell our students to not be handing stuff back and forth and talking to each other during a round in a regular tournament.
May I chime in? But if they're in the same room together with only one camera, the judge will not see them talking since they won't be on the camera. So they do have an extreme advantage.
Well, the one person that's talking, I mean, you're still seeing one person.
No, you don't. Not when the other people are talking. So if the petitioner, when the government, when the respondents are arguing, the petitioners will not be on camera and will be able to talk and share things without being on camera. It gives them an
They're supposed to have their camera on.
They should have the camera on and pointed at them when they're not arguing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, whoever, if one person will not be on camera, but the other person has to, I mean, the camera will always be on. So if that one person's talking back and forth, then you're still going to see it.
So the camera will be on one of them even when the other team is speaking.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And so let me test my understanding here. There is no form of conversation available for petitioners to discuss rebuttal content. Is that right?
That's correct. We have not authorized any other communication like text, email, social medias. The rule has always been no external communication, and it remains no external communication. Other questions?
John, actually, just because in a little bit I need to go teach a class. Can I get a minute to talk about judge issue that you and I discussed before?
Of course.
Okay, thank you. So probably just about all of you at some point over the summer received an email from me mentioning that if you had alums who would be good judges to please, this is going to be kind of all hands on deck. I think that you traveled to a tournament, and I've traveled to plenty of them, and you kind of take for granted that the host is going to provide judges, and you know, sometimes they do better at that than others. This is a little bit different, and as I say, it's going to be a bit of old hands on deck. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that every coach in this room, and I realize that some of the coaches are undergraduates, but every coach in this room has produced at least one law student. Is that a fair bet? And I'm even going to go out on a limb and say, and probably at least one lawyer. And I'm also going to guess that it's actually, I'm understating it. So I asked if folks could help out. And look, I got put in this role by John, so you may not like what I'm going to say next, but I'm taking this for AMCA, right? This is my job. I'm sort of the whip here. If you all, we need judges. I'm just going to be brutally honest with you. We need judges. I don't think Rob needs them that much, but some of the others I'm looking at, we need judges. If you have one in mind, and there's about 40 on this call, I'm going to guess 30 of you are faculty coaches. If you each sent me one name, and even that said, probably only half of them might sign up, it would be very, very, very helpful to ensure that your students have a good experience. Otherwise, you know, if we don't have enough judges, then you're going to have some very long days, right? There's going to be some modifications to schedules. Things are going to get flooded. Please, please, please help us help give you, the students, the best experience they can have. And again, I'll play the heavy. I sent this around to every coach on this, and I have gotten a grand total of, from this group, one. I don't mean somebody on that. No, I don't including you, Kinsey. You're a board. I mean, from all the coaches I emailed, one person unsolicited, two people unsolicitedly sent me names, and I tracked a couple down. Kinsey is right. She sent me one as a board member, and he signed up for about 3 regionals so far. So she's in second place so far. She's behind me. So please, I'm looking at, oh, you guys are all my friends. I've known you for a long time. You know, please get me at least one judge who then might sign up. They might not, but you've got to have people in mind. It
Who signs up the most gets, what do we say, $50? $50 gift card from AMCA?
That's whoever finishes second to me, right? So if you can help out, it would be really, because I'm looking at the lists. I have access to a lot of the sign up geniuses. I'm looking at them. I'm not trying to cause panic. I'm just telling you, I'm looking at them. A lot of them are people that are signing up because they're ones that board members or myself pushed this to. And in some cases, there are a sizable number of the people signed up. So it's in your best interest. That's all I can say. So, and if that rubs anybody the wrong way, you know, I'll take that bullet. But I think it's in the long run the best thing for AMCA this year. So thanks, Sean. And you can send the name to Kinsey, or you can email me, however it works out for you.
No, send the name to Lewis. Don't email me anything about judges. My email is dying with substitutions and replacements. Send it to info@amcamootcourt.org. That gets you Kobe, who is wonderfully organized, unlike me, or lewis.ringel@verizon.net, or what?
It's actually just Lewis Ringel at verizon.net.
Ah, there it is.
The dot is in the Long Beach one. But thank you, Kinsey. And to the question, they can't be your current students, but we'll take law students, especially if they did AMCA. Anybody who did AMCA is typically the best judge there is.
Yep.
So Lewis, you just need lawyers?
That would be great. And Gina needs them too. I mean, Gina in particular needs them. I was texting with her this morning. So send them to her. Or send them to me if you, especially let them to say, like a lot of folks say, well, my alums are really busy. Let them tell me that. Yeah, I'm not worried about offending them. I was born in New York. Let them tell me they can't do it. And you might be surprised how many of them will sign up. I have a list of about 80, and about half of them have signed up for stuff. I know they're busy, but they almost all feel that they owe something to AMCA. And the truth is they're quite honored to be asked to judge. So please don't underestimate the importance that this organization has played for Well, honestly, for folks like Kinsey and John, who are alums who are now basically the leaders of this organization. So let them say no to me.
So reach out to friends and tell them to email Lewis. And,
Yep, that'd be great if they're lawyers or if they're law
let-
students. You know, if they're law students who didn't do moot court, they're probably not ideal. But if they're law students who did moot court, they're perfect. One of Rob's alums, Brianna, is judging. She signed up for 2 regionals outside of Texas. So
But if they're
this is their
lawyers
chance
who've
to
been
judge places outside of Texas.
lawyers who've been practicing for 25 years, who obviously did moot court in law school, they'd be good, right?
Absolutely.
All right,
Doesn't
I'll
have to
see
be
what I can.
25 years, but yeah, absolutely.
I'll see what I can do.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
So I've been helping recruit judges for a particular tournament. Are you centralizing the whole judge distribution system? I mean, do you want to have all the judge go through you and then you're going to assign them to tournaments, or should we be recruiting judges for our own regionals?
No, you should still recruit for your own regionals. What we're trying to do is create sort of a centralized database of judges, especially who, you know, during a Zoom year would be willing to judge at multiple competitions, so that if you do end up a little bit short at your own tournament, we can take someone from Gina's on the West Coast, 2 or 3 of them from my regional, and they can help you and vice versa. So we're hoping to get sort of a centralized database of these experienced judges. And this way they'll have seen the case before, they'll have seen it multiple times, and the quality will hopefully go up as well.
John, if I could
we still want you to get your own judges, absolutely. Sorry, Lewis, yes.
If I could add to your answer. So one, we're putting together a list for nationals. So that's the centralized list. But there are judges who are signed up for multiple regionals. I mean, this is perfect for them. It's the same case. They don't have to travel. They tend to get better the more they judge. And the truth of the matter is that some of them are looking for things to do. You know, I have sent any host who's asked me for help, I've sent their signups out. I emailed all the regional directors ahead of time, and about 5 or 6 of them have asked me for help, and I've been trying to help. If you need help, just send me an email and I'll try and help you. And if you don't need help, great. And if you got ones that you think you can push to other regionals that don't conflict with yours, you know, again, it's all hands on deck. It's for anybody who's in Arizona, you know what I'm talking about. And if you weren't, there's great stories about it for another time.
There are no great stories. There are no great stories.
Oh, it was a great regional.
Nationals.
Championship. It was AMCA's finest moment in many ways.
You know, out of adversity comes the greatest achievements.
Yeah, you show up at a tournament and the host has recruited 10 judges, right? So every coach judged just about. It was chaos.
Yeah, I broke in a new pair of heels at that tournament. Sucked. She said with love and optimism about nationals this year.
I sat in the same room with John O'Donnell and about 3 other people for about 10 hours telling people where they were judging. It was total chaos. So I think that, you know, we're going to get through this, and any help that you can give just helps, you know, the larger organization. So thank you in advance. Thanks, John, for letting me do that.
Of course. Thank you for doing it. Are there any other questions about what we can try to hope to expect for this year? All right.
I have a question.
Of course.
Hi, I'm the mid-court captain at CSUB, and I had one question regarding when we go into our breakout rooms, are we expected to keep our audio off until we are prompted by the judges?
Yeah, you'd be highly recommended, yes.
Okay.
Highly recommended. It depends on what's going on in your room. I mean, if you're just sitting there quietly, it's sort of at your discretion. If it's getting close to start time, you want to turn it off. But watch out for those hot mics.
Okay, thanks.
So it seems that we've got a number of documents floating around. Is there any script for the technology challenged like me that basically starts with turning on your computer and maybe not that, but each step of the process, step by step?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's sort of the documents are sort of broken down based on who's seeking the information, whether you're a host, a competitor, or a bailiff. They're all sort of going to be part of the mix. Which order you choose to look at them in. I'd start with the tournament host guidelines. I would start there and then look at the competitors and bailiffs. I'm just going to dump the link to the resources tab there as well. I would go through the tournament guidelines for hosts, the tournament guidelines for competitors, and that should really be enough. The bailiffs, yeah, you'd want to do the bailiffs just so you're familiar with it.
But so they're on the resources site.
Yeah, well, there's several others up there, but I don't think they'd be necessary. I think if you go through the host guideline, that's about as much of a breakdown as you could ask for. There are literally screenshots of what your computer will look like when you enter the Zoom, pointers and directionals about click this is what it does. And it really is broken down, I think, quite well by Nick Conway in that.
All right, thanks.
Sure. Other questions?
I had a question real quick.
Sure, go ahead, Logan.
So when we're going into the tournament, essentially when the tournament starts, we'll be going into a breakout room, right? But there'll probably be like a preface and then go into breakout room. But then after that round, do we all go back into the main room and then wait for the next round there? Or do we leave the Zoom meeting until our next round? Or how's that gonna work?
So every host is going to do that a little bit differently based on their comfort level with Zoom, the size of the tournament, their schedule, and how much administrative support they have. The most time-consuming aspect of the tournament is the physically moving people from room to room. So what we're recommending that hosts do is you set up your Zoom, you have people log in, dump all the competitors into a room for their respective school. All right, so each school would have the teams from their room in there, and then a separate judges room. All right, so the judges will be in there. Then when the round begins, as you say, the judges will all be assigned to their rooms, followed by the competitors being assigned to their rooms. The judges are going to stay in their rooms. So if you're Judge Jones and Judge Smith, they're always in room A. They're going to stay in room A. Whether you as the competitor, Logan, get moved back to your school's room or to round two's room is at the discretion of the host. They should provide you that information ahead of time. Again, when they send you that AMCA link, so approximately a week before the tournament, they should inform you of how they're going to handle that. And then there should be some sort of mass gathering at the end for the announcement of results. Although depending again on the size of the tournament and the nature of the tabulation, they may find it's better to say, we're going to email you at a certain time, but we're encouraging the host to do sort of an announcement as they classically would.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Sure. Other questions, concerns?
Yeah, so I know that there is a button in the breakout room that says, I need help or have a question or whatever. Are we suggesting that someone push that button when the round is over so that the host knows to move those people out of that room?
It's a good question. So that button is for exactly help purposes. It's for summoning the host. If more than a few moments have gone by and you're waiting, I think that's a perfectly acceptable thing to do. The host, what they don't want to do is come in and out of the room because it can mess with the presentation of the screens if they come in the middle of the rounds. Now, again, most of these rounds will start at the same time. Most of them will end at the same time, and the host will probably be in touch with their bailiffs, whether it's by text message or some other form of communication, to know which rounds are ending when. But yes, if your round has been done for more than a few minutes, it's not a bad idea to flag someone. The host may even decide to make that their home rule, but that's not something we're going to enforce at an AMCA level.
In other words, when the comments have been completed, the bailiff would then text the host, and the host can then move people at that point.
Absolutely, yep. And if the judges are using the Google ballot form, whoever's in the tab room is going to see them coming in as well, so they'll know that room is done.
Okay, all right.
As soon as the judges hit submit or an email comes in, they'll know the judge is done.
Yeah, I've just been having my rooms, push the button, I need help, and then I would move people at that point because I knew they were done. So That seemed to be a simple way to do it.
Yep, that's a perfectly fine way to do it. I don't think it would cause any interference with the round. So that's.
And I agree, we should not be bopping in and out of rooms. It's very distracting.
Agree. Anyone else have questions?
I got one more question relating to notes.
To notes?
Yeah.
Okay.
So in the past, like, we've had like the paper notes that we just had in front of us. Is that going to be the requirement for the virtual tournament, that they're on paper and like they can see it there, or can we have it on like virtually on like a Google Doc?
Yep. There is no requirement that you have paper notes. There is no prohibition per se on having notes on your computer screen. Now, if you've done enough Zoom meetings, you can tell when someone's reading. I mean, it's pretty obvious when their eyes are scanning the words on the page and they're searching for the language. So there is no rule against it, but it would be treated as though, the judges will be told to treat it as though you had notes. And there's no rule against notes, but some judges think that impacts the performance. And so that's going to be at the judge's discretion. So you're perfectly fine to have them up there, but how that impacts your score will vary from judge to judge.
Hey, John, I don't want to beat a dead horse. You've addressed this, but I want to make sure I understand, because I've had questions from multiple coaches. It has, in my understanding, never been prohibited for competitors to pass a note to each other talking about rebuttal and so forth. And somebody's already asked the question, is there any mechanism? And you pretty emphatically said no, but I'm curious where in the rules, because this is going to come up. Students are going to be chatting with each other, group meeting with each other and so forth. What rule is it that says they're not allowed to communicate with each other at all if they're not in the same physical room?
Sure. And I can look that up for you.
I don't mean play stump the chump. Sorry, I can ask you that offline. I just want to make sure that we all know when we're telling our students, no, you're not allowed to do that, kind of what we're pointing at.
Yep. Just bear with me for a moment. So rule 311.2, electronic devices in the courtroom. All right, you have to turn off all other electronic devices in the room, provided they're not just, coaches can have it, with the exception of coaches. And then we made so that rule would normally, and if you're in the same room or separate rooms, would normally ban any sort of technological communication of any kind. So that's the rule that bans it. And then the notation to it allows us to use it to log into rounds and to conduct rounds. All right, but it's solely for that purpose, for the purpose of conducting rounds. It is not for the purpose of the two competitors to communicate with each other. And that's how the rule was intended to be applied.
And so there's no, and again, I'm beating a dead horse, I know, but there's no provision now to electronically do what was permitted with pen and paper in normal prior rounds, which is a one competitor, petitioner one can write a note to petitioner two. That's not permitted now, and it's 311 that you're saying is what doesn't allow it.
That is correct.
Got it. Thank you.
No, thank you, Eric. I appreciate the clarity. Other issues, concerns? Okay. If other questions arise, and I'm certain they will, especially as people begin practicing and encountering different situations, don't hesitate to reach out. We have our info account. Some of you have my direct line as well. So we're here to make this work for all of you. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be just like in person. There is no substitute for the in-person. But I will say we're in better shape than the crew teams and football programs out there, that there is a lot we can do. And who knows, maybe this is something that becomes part of forensics going forward. All right. If there's nothing else, this has been recorded. It'll be posted. So if